So foul line. Brown is allowed.
What's up, everybody? It's the holiday season. Welcome back to another episode of Motor City Realist. Finally got a back-to-back week here in the. It's been a while in the last couple months, but we've got Lions losing a little bit of steam. We got Kane made his debut with the Red Wings. The Pistons couldn't find a W in the alphabet if they tried, and Florida State's still not in the college football playoffs. So we're going to talk about all that and a little bit more here today. It's your boys back in the studio, Zach and Mike. Mike, how you doing today?
Good. I feel like not a lot's changed since we recorded. No wins. Lions continue to lose steam. Other than Kane, got a little bit going on. But yeah, like you said, holiday season, man. We're getting really into it. Excited to talk. I think this is going to be kind of a coming to Jesus episode for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. This is where us being realists really kicks in. I feel like so. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting this next hour, and any of you guys listen to the show, it's gonna be a fun one. You got I gotta ask you though, since I don't know these days, you got snow yet up there?
No, actually today it was mid 40s. So they said it was about where the normal temperature is in December, but just the other day or about a week ago it was in the 60s. I think we said a record. So yeah, that's that bipolar weather, but you can tell that it's that cold is coming. But I don't get into that farmer almanac. I don't know anything about winter or what's going to happen. I just kind of take it as it goes.
Yeah, you just check, see what it's going to be the next day. Is there lake effect or is there no lake effect? I know how it is up in the Midwest. Speaking of Midwest, let's just get right into it. We were both wildly wrong on our predictions. And the Bears finished the job this time, which honestly probably should have been the case the first time too, but they just Bearsed it, and this time they didn't Bears it.
Yeah, and actually, to tell you the truth, towards the end of the game, I was like so dejected and so sick of what I was seeing. But I was like, can this really happen twice against the Bears that we can come back two scores down? But no, I mean overall, there was so much going through my head. We talked about Ben Johnson last week and kind of coming back to earth and what his future will be. And Aaron Glenn's got a lot of heat, but you know what? I think that game, I mean, we can kind of jump into it. I don't know what you took away from it, but it's easy to blame Aaron Glenn and the defense, although I think the defense played pretty decent outside of that 4th and 13. We got some pressure, we got some sacks. Obviously, I think I say all the time, we always run into a few sacks with those scrambling quarterbacks. They kind of just run. I mean, really, they just kind of run into some sacks. But I think Ben Johnson, I mean, he's still throwing some wrinkles in there, but we're not missing anything offensively other than our line. I feel like we're getting really vanilla. I don't know what's going on. For the life of me, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Bears defense isn't bad, but I mean, nothing worked. This is probably Amra's worst game. A lot of opportunities, and still there was, he makes some incredible catches, and I felt like there's probably some hard catches that maybe he dropped this game. Usually you see it, so maybe it's hard on him, but overall, man, I didn't look. There was nothing exciting about that game. There was nothing that gave me hope. Gibbs had he ripped off a decent sized run, but really, man, I don't know where to start with this game. What's your takeaway? What are you thinking?
Well, yeah, I mean, we touched on it last week about how it felt like Ben Johnson was getting, I don't want to say predictable, but a little bit figured out, I think. And I think it echoed true in this game, like you said. Uh, I think Jameson Williams had one target, and we know we talked about, like, obviously he missed the season, right? And then he had the suspension, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but at this point, it almost feels like we've just got unused weapons, and I think, like, saying that our offense is vanilla is a good way to put it. It doesn't seem like there's no dynamics to it other than what just took people or teams by surprise in the first place. But
I
they've
think
got that
I'm
figured out.
glad I'm glad you brought that up because for them to say, JMO had to start blocking, had to start doing things, and he's doing those things. Whether you like the guy or not, for everything that he's been through, his injuries and the gambling, he's there. But we're not even we're not even taking a shot. I think most teams go into the game say, okay, they got these opportunities. We're going to play a little deep over top, so it opens up the running game early on. And then they start creeping in all game long, and they take everything away because I don't think we've thrown a pass over 20, 30 yards the past couple games. And don't get me wrong, Goff, I don't know what the deal was. Probably the most frustrating thing to me was the Goff's decision to play with gloves. I felt like I don't know what's going on with him, but I feel like his passes as of late are just horrible. And I'm the biggest Goff believer, and that'll be a big part of our show because you and I are exchanging some texts. But that we don't take any shots. We don't utilize our weapons. We want to get Gibbs out in open space. A short, quick pass. I get that, but we're not utilizing JMO other than maybe some end arounds, reverses. We're not even. I mean, every team is taking multiple shots on our slow DBs and just running right by us.
Yeah, it almost seems like it to me. If we're gonna hone in on the passing game, Jared Goff is kind of trusting that guys are going to be open in the short game without looking, and it's leading to a lot of what appears to be like passes right to a linebacker or passes right to a nickelback or something like that. But it's frustrating because he won't do that with a Jameson Williams type. Like, if you just put Jameson Williams on the outside and he's got man coverage and that safety's not helping, just throw it as far as you can, Jared. Jameson's going to win that foot race. And it's almost like we won't put that type of play into our offense, but we'll put a play where we've got, two slants and an out route or something like that, and Jared Goff is faking a handoff and throwing it before he even turns his head because he expects his guy to be open. But defenses have figured this out now, right? We run on first down, we run on maybe second down, and we play action it over the middle. And it's like he's not, I feel like Jared Goff is not going through his progressions anymore, and he's just trusting what was open when our offense was new to everyone, and it's not new anymore, and they're figuring it out. And so and a lot of that falls on Ben Johnson, right? You gotta come up with new plays. You gotta figure out how to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. And you brought up Amon-Ra, and I think Jared Goff was talking about that this week. He's like, we got to figure out other ways to get the ball in his hand. And whenever you hear that, it's like you're pretty much saying, our offensive coordinator's got to figure out a way to get, because like that's not Amon-Ra's job, right?
And don't get me wrong. Now is not the time to burn Ben Johnson at the stake. But but for all the hype and all the praise, I mean, this is a professional sport. You go through this once. There's enough tape out there. Teams start to figure it out. But that's where you got to make adjustments. That's where teams are good when they go in the half and they make adjustments. And I feel like we've always every year gone into half. The same old Lions. That I'm not talking about them now, but when we talked about the same old Lions, we'd go into half. The other team would make adjustments, and we just had no clue. And now it's like, I think we're making adjustments. I think our defense, even though the defense has played poor, I think we're making adjustments. We're trying new people. Um, you know, who would have thought? One of the biggest, you know, I shouldn't say issues, but the biggest loss is obviously we talk about CJ Gardner Johnson. That was a huge loss. Obviously, we've had people trickle in and out, but I mean our third corner, that signed Emmanuel that signed this year that didn't even I think he got like 2 snaps in before he tore his ACL again. How bad and who knows, he could have totally sucked, but how bad are we right now that he was a guy that's kind of one of our biggest significant losses right now because we're plugging. There was a guy last night I'm sorry, last week that they called up from the practice squad that I think originally played for the Bears and ended up starting, and I can't even tell you the truth. I don't even know what his name is. I can't even I don't know. But I was just thinking like, don't get me wrong. I like that they're giving opportunities. They're putting the best man in there, but that's what we came with this year. Our defense was where we made the strides, and the second half of the season it's been tough. But I definitely think offense. We definitely got to get something together because we talk about it every week, the same show as the snowball starts rolling. This second half of the schedule, this last quarter is turning into a grueling
Yeah.
schedule outside of Minnesota going down to their third string quarterback, which who knows what's going to happen there. But either way, they're going to play us good. It's not like they're not. But I mean, yeah, Denver is now in the thick of it. We already talked about Dallas. I mean, it's not. There is a real chance this team could end up 9-8.
Yeah, that's a scary part, and it's gonna be the defense that. I mean, obviously, our defense I think needs, or I should say. I should say our defense has had more setbacks than our offense has had this year.
Yeah.
Personnel wise. And it's showing, right? Our defense has given up, I think, 25 plus games every game since the bye. And so that's why I think it is imperative, like you said, that our offense has to get something going. Because if we're going to make anything of this season, it's going to have to be on the backs of the offense. The defense is struggling personnel wise, a little bit into the depth. I think we touched on Aaron Glenn at the beginning of the episode that he did a good job. Like he was making adjustments in that Bears game that I thought the offense wasn't making. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think Detroit is a contender anymore. I think we can get into the playoffs. And obviously if we have actually a clinching scenario, we have a few clinching scenarios this weekend, but if we win our next 2 games, I think we clinch automatically. So I think there's a good chance we get into the playoffs, but I wouldn't expect us, to be honest, I wouldn't even expect us in the NFC Championship game. I just don't think we have a complete enough team.
No, and that's the thing. I think obviously, this is where the realist part of it comes into it. We're further along than expectations. Come back down to earth. We're where we are. We're moving along, but we're not expected to be the contender that in the middle of the season we kind of got thrown out there to be. Don't get me wrong, love to see the run, but I think I kind of mentioned it last week. You don't want to get into a game where, again, this is a professional sport, anything can happen, but you don't want to get into a game where, you've been playing with this NFC teams, then you get an NFC championship and you just get smoked. But then you see teams like, of course, Dallas going in and just silencing the Eagles, and then San Francisco lost. So that where we should have ran away with it, now it's really, really tight. Again, we're going to finish with Dallas, so it's getting into a scenario where, wow, that game's really, really going to matter. It's the last game of the season. And then obviously the 2 divisional games with Minnesota, but yeah, I don't know what to take other than I think we're right where we need to be. A lot of panic, and I think a lot of the panic now is. And before we get into the Denver game, I don't want to get too far away from the Chicago game because there's not a whole lot to talk about here. But now we're getting into a Goff situation where is Goff playing himself out of a contract? Is Goff that the first half of the season he was lining up, but statistically on paper, he's still having a great season. But the fact that he's had 8 turnovers in the past 3 games, where he started the season, he had 9 games in a row with less than that. A lot of fumbles, a lot of interceptions. I know you text me, and pretty much the Twitter world for the One Pride Lions was on fire after that game. Then we start talking about Hooker. Definitely he's a guy that we've wanted to be healthy. He's sat behind Goff. Obviously, Teddy Bridgewater's here. Is that a guy that next year you're satisfied with this team for him to take over the reins? Or are you looking at Goff and saying, okay, you've played good. You kind of shit the bed the second half of the season. Maybe we can get you for cheap. Or at this point, are you just wash your hands of the Goff and let's start over?
Yeah, I think there's a couple variables that go into that. The biggest one to me is who the offensive coordinator is next year. I could see when you've got guys like Hooker and Bridgewater who add a different dynamic to your offense or have the potential to add a different dynamic to your offense, and you get a fresh OC in there that maybe wants to run that kind of offense, then it's a match made in heaven, right? But yeah, I don't know, man. It's like you said, like if you get Goff for cheap, what do you do? Like, it's going to be tough. It's also going to be how much does Detroit, the organization, trust Hendon Hooker coming off of his injury, and how much he's been able to learn about the offense and the camaraderie he's built with the guys in that locker room. But yeah, that's going to be a tough discussion going into the offseason. And another variable is just going to be how this season finishes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we talk about Goff did so well at the beginning of the season and he's kind of teetered off, but we still got what, 4 or 5 games left that he could go, he could actually absolutely light it up. And so, yeah, that's going to be a tough balance for the Lions, a tough discussion for them going into the offseason. One thing I want to ask you as we near the end of this season is, because you talked about pump the brakes a little bit, right? We're kind of ahead of where we're supposed to be. We've got one of the youngest rosters in the league. And I think a lot of these expectations are as high as they are because of how we finished last season, right? We win 8 of our 9, and then we rake the front half of this season, which was supposed to be the tougher half of our schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And now it looks like we're a little tired. We're getting a little, like you said, vanilla. It's getting a little boring, a little repetitive. Teams are figuring it out. And I think expectations are high because we won. I mean, you take the last half of last season, the first half of this season. If that was one season together, we're probably a 1 seed skating into the championship. You know, yeah. So it's just like you said, we gotta pump the brakes. But my question is, how does the rest of the Detroit fan base handle this? If the ones that don't, obviously, if you listen to us, hopefully you're more of a realist by now. But for those that don't listen to us, right? And let's say worst case scenario, we do tank and we finish 9-8. What happens to the One Pride fan base? Are they gunning for Goff? Are they gunning for Dan Campbell? Are they gunning who is on the chopping block?
Goff and Glenn.
For the fans.
Goff and Glenn for sure. Okay. And Goff, number one, because the grumblings are already around Goff. I mean, there's no way. I mean, you talk about Dan Campbell. I don't think he gets any heat. Some people are kind of like, yeah, he comes out and defends his guys. And a lot of times says, I got to get them better prepared. But I don't know if you saw what he said during his press conference. Is real short, and it said, if I got to get a little crankier, that's what I'll have to do, and I don't have any problem doing that. Essentially saying that he's finally going to light up the boys, and he's not going to be him haw. I don't think he gets the pressure. I mean, I'm sure he'll take it personal and wear it, but that's the stuff he likes. But Glenn, no, I don't even think Ben Johnson gets much heat. I think I still think there's going to be a lot of teams calling for him, but Aaron Glenn for sure, and Goff. I think Goff is going to turn into the biggest scapegoat in the NFL. Right now I'm still in this camp, and I don't think a lot's going to change that for the end of the season. But I think if you tank the rest of the 4 games, and there's an opportunity that maybe you get in as a wild card. There's a huge discrepancy there. Actually, I guess you probably wouldn't even, because Minnesota would beat you twice, and but
yeah, it would be tough.
I don't know. I think I don't know. I think you would hear more about that than the 0-21 Detroit Pistons that they're on the run right now.
Yeah, God. Well, that's the thing is it seems like the Pistons are leaking into the Lions and into the Red Wings a little bit. So,
And did you
but
see?
yeah,
You know what? Not to get away with this, but I didn't see what San Antonio did last night. But you know, Wembley, Victor Wembley's, they lost 17 in a row, and they played last
I
night. I
did
didn't see
see
if they
that.
won. This is
Yeah,
the
I did see this.
first time in NBA history two teams have gone on a losing streak that long.
I did see that they were struggling. I saw a headline about it. I'm about to. Yeah, they lost by 3 to the Lakers last night. So that's 18.
So they were 18 in a row. So you're talking two
Jeez.
teams have lost almost 40 games in a row.
And like
Wow.
for the Pistons, how many times have we been at the top of the draft board? We're about to be there again.
And the bad thing
It's-
is the lottery. So yeah, it's not even. But before
Right.
we get too much into that, we'll talk
Yeah.
Pistons. But I'm glad you brought up draft, because before we get into the Denver game, I know we're kind of moving on, we're bouncing around, but because this was another thing that I saw a lot with a lot of the pressure on Goff, people wanting to see Goff gone. What do you feel like the top 3 position of needs for this year's draft are going to be? Obviously, we're gonna have a lot better draft, clearly. But where do you feel our top 3 needs are? 1, 2, and 3.
One, I think, is the defensive line. I think you got to get Aiden Hutchinson some help.
Yes.
You've got to put some pressure on our opposing offensive lines. That just not to let them double Aiden Hutchinson every single play.
I feel like he gets held every single play too, and that's not even. I'm not even going to bring that up, but it's just.
Yeah, and that's depending on who you ask. Obviously, us Lions fans are going to say, yeah, he's being held every play. But yeah, I would say number 1, defensive line. I would say actually, and honestly, I would say all 3 are on the defense. I think that we've got enough depth on the offense, and what this season has showed us is that we really lack depth on defense. I think we need a lockdown linebacker, somebody who you can count on, somebody who can be somebody with like not only toughness, like obviously if you're going to be part of a Dan Campbell defense, you're going to have grit and all that, but I want somebody I want a linebacker who's got IQ. Like, I don't want to say generational, like that's a little bit much to ask, but you know, you think about guys like Ray Lewis and obviously those are tough shoes to fill, Ray Lewis, but like Brian Urlacher, Teddy Bruschi, these guys have just understood what offenses we're doing. I feel like we don't have that. We have grit, we have toughness, we have guys who want to get in there, but we don't have guys who are knowing the play when they approach the line of scrimmage. And so I would love to get a linebacker. I think that would be exciting.
I feel like Jack Campbell's your IQ guy, but I do agree with you because I feel like we got a lot of situational guys. We don't have one guy that's just going to be able to do everything. We've got the rusher, we've got the smart guy, we've got the Barnes that comes in pass rush. They got the coverage. Anzalone's played great this season, but I do feel like Jalen Reeves was playing this week and he got his first career sack, and he's usually a special teamer. So I don't know what's going on with that room, but I feel like they're trying all different things. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Not to get you on. I asked you for 3, so we're obviously yes, defensive line, linebacker. But I agree that somebody that you plug in there that maybe is not necessarily going to come off the field and they're just going to do everything.
No, yeah, that's a good call on Jack Campbell. I tend to, with all this rookie hype we get on offense, I tend to forget about Jack Campbell.
He kind of flies under the radar because it's not a sexy,
Yeah, but he's a good player. He's a good player. And obviously he's going to grow and learn. So maybe he develops into that guy, and that could be exciting as far as defense goes. But yeah, and then I don't know. It's hard to say because like we could use a defensive back, but we miss on DBs all the time. Like I remember Jeff Okuda, and then and like this year we've been kind of bit by injuries, and we have guys that have good games at defensive back, but I don't know. What are your 3? Because now I'm thinking like D-line. I want another linebacker, but I also feel like we have DBs. I just want them developed a little bit more.
Well, I'm right there with you. Definitely D-line, and I could even say, man, your first 2 picks.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that.
I'm looking at this draft class and I'm thinking there's a lot of offense coming out of this draft. I don't know necessarily defensively, but I definitely like the linebacker. My biggest thing is we've got a lot of these guys like Gardner Johnson. He was on a 1 year kind of prove it contract. What's going to happen is it seems like he really loves what he hasn't played, but he loved being here, loved doing everything. We're going to get him back for the playoff push. We should get Houston back. It sounds like both those guys are going to be back to make the long haul. But if he doesn't resign, then you got Tracy Walker, Kirby Joseph back there, but then your safeties fall off, which gets into your secondary. Sutton, he signed a few year deal, but Jerry Jacobs, I mean, he's our kind of other starter. And don't get me wrong, he played good start season, but I think lately he's kind of getting exposed. So I think you definitely go after a DB. And it's like one of those guys that almost like statistically at the combine they jump off the charts because I feel like you could kind of slowly bring them along as long as we stay healthy. See these guys. So I'd like to see that little athleticism back there. Kirby Joseph's a freak athlete, but I'm right with you. The offensive line has been banged up. Decker's not getting any younger. Ragnow has been banged up. Vaitai has been the biggest free agency bust ever. I think he's played 4 games for us for the past. I don't even know. Jonah Jackson's played good, but that offensive line, I think they've only played 4 games together. But defensively,
that
for
was
sure.
that was gonna be my dark horse, was to just throw maybe another offensive lineman in there for depth. But I was just thinking, like you got talking about all these DBs, and last game Brian Branch had a reduced role. I don't know if you saw this, but they didn't play him at safety at all.
Yeah, so that it's funny because I feel like there's always some kind of fantasy reference. So I play in a fantasy where you have to have a cornerback, you have to have a linebacker, you have to have a defensive lineman. And I picked him up, and I'm like, you know what? He's been playing good. He's got a lot of snaps. And so then as I'm watching the game, I'm scrolling to my phone and like looking for an injury, like what's going on? But nobody's said anything. Nobody said he got benched. Nobody said, so I don't know what the situation was, what was going on, if there was a bad read, something going on, but there was absolutely no information on that. But I did notice that. And I was like, so every time there was a tackle, I was like, all right, let me see. Branch get in. I was like, he ain't even on the field.
Yeah, they asked AG about it, and he said that he only played him at nickel because he just wanted him focusing on one position, and so they were trying that this week, and they didn't want to split him at nickel and safety, so he just didn't play any snaps at safety, I guess.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that makes a little more sense, but I think that's kind of what I'm talking about in the secondary. I'm okay if maybe we get it, if we can draft an athlete a little later, that way they can kind of develop and kind of get out there because these guys are playing good. I mean, you talk about the injuries to our starters, but the rest, I mean, to obviously CJ, but I think our DBs, there's not the outside of Jacobs missing the game. Sutton, I don't think's missed any games. These guys are playing pretty good. At least for a long season, where usually in past it's like we're rotating DBs left and right. But like you said, yeah, we definitely just don't have the depth. So you notice that when they're bringing guys up that you've never even heard of, which you brought up Okuda. And right before the show, I just had to peek to see what he was doing this year because I noticed in the Atlanta game he wasn't starting. He's playing a little nickel. He's got 41 tackles, no interceptions. But of course, the right when I'm looking him up, there's a whole bunch of articles on him this week about how they feel like he's finally hitting his stride. Atlanta's writing about him. Like, I'm like, give me a break. But whatever. It's between that, that's a really tight end and DB. That's one of the toughest areas to really hit rich in the draft. And speaking of tight end, there's a real chance within the next 4 games that he could actually Laporta could actually break the tight end rookie record. And I feel like as of late, he's been kind of the target favorite. This past game, they all kind of slowed down a little bit, but you definitely know. You talk about all these rookies playing really, really purposeful minutes, making an impact. But he's definitely one that when we drafted him, I kind of scratched my head. Not because I didn't think he'd be good, because he's from Iowa. Those tight ends are good, but never did I think that he would be probably the best draft pick we have. Outside of the value we got on Branch, obviously Gibbs, people again question it, but Holmes is definitely hit. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what all these guys do in their sophomore season.
Yeah, as far as like immediate return goes, like Sam Laporta was a home run. I get nervous. I don't know if you feel like this, but I get nervous whenever because there's a graphic or two after every game. Sam Laporta breaking some new franchise tight end record, and I get so nervous that he's going to be like an early bloomer. Yeah, because like you see like. You look at like the long-term guys, like any position, like we'll just stick with tight end, right? You see like the greats like Antonio Gonzalez or Kellen Winslow or any of those guys, Jeremy Shockey.
Senior.
None of those guys were yeah. None of those guys they were breaking records like this, right? Anyone you're like, or you see like quarterbacks like first to X amount of pass yards and X amount of rush yards, and it's like Cam Newton and someone else. And you're like, yeah, they turned out to be nothing. Like obviously they had a couple great years, but long term, I just get nervous about that, Sam Laporta. I really hope that he could be sustainable and just be as durable as they come, and maybe he becomes the Travis Kelce of our franchise. That would be sweet. But I get nervous, man. Every time he breaks a new record, I'm like, it's got to end sometime, right?
That because it's just like I think we've mentioned this before when they say this field goal kicker is 40 for 40 on the season. The next one he doinks it,
Yeah.
But I feel like I hold my breath the most when he gets tackled. I feel like that dude's always getting chopped at the knees or pulled over behind, and I'm just like, oh man. And when then he pops up. But you quickly mentioned Cam Newton. Did you see what Cam Newton said on a podcast this week about his 5 quarterbacks that he feels like are just game managers and aren't going to make the big play? And he put Goff in there, which I feel like, okay, but he put him in there with Tua, and he put him in there with some other high-profile quarterbers.
Yeah, Purdy, right? Was in there too?
Yeah, Purdy, which, I don't know, maybe it's just a white boy quarterback with no wheels.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm agreeing with, with Tua and those guys, he said that, I don't know. What's your take? Do you think Goff is a game manager, or do you think he's somebody that can go out there and I know I keep going back to Goff because you text me right in the middle of the game and you let me know where you were at with Goff. But what kind of quarterback is he for you? Is he somebody that's gonna audible make the plays, or do you feel like he's just kind of what's given to him he takes?
No, yeah, to me, Jared Goff is the epitome of a system quarterback. I think that's what he is. I don't even think he's a game manager, to be honest. I think if you like, to me, like the penultimate game manager is Peyton Manning, and then you get some other different types down from there, right? And obviously Jared Goff is not Peyton Manning, but he's not even like I tend to agree with Cam Newton. I don't know. I don't go into I'm not going to compare quarterbacks, but I do think Brock Purdy is a good game manager. I don't think Jared Goff is that. I don't think
Jared Goff. I was going to say, so for me asking you, which I know where I stand, but for somebody to say your quarterback's a game manager, is that a good thing for you?
I would take it. I think the way it rubbed people wrong is that Cam Newton was talking in terms of like MVP awards and stuff like that. And he's like, we can't give an MVP award to a game manager, give it to like an athlete, which I don't know. The delivery and the wording of all that is a little, I don't know, who knows. But point is like, yeah, I would take a game manager. I think that's an asset to have. What I see Jared Goff, like if the microphone goes off, he's calling timeout. He's not going to whip up a play that's going to work on 3rd and 4. So that to me is where the game manager comes in. When things are crazy, it's loud, maybe you can't hear the coach or whatever is going on, can you come up with something at the line of scrimmage? I don't think Jared Goff has that ability. That's kind of why I texted you what I texted you, right? And I was like, and I'll just let the people know, I was like, there's no need to re-sign this man. And it's not a knock on Jared Goff. I would prefer to see an offense with the weapons that we have handled by somebody with more of a repertoire at quarterback that Jared Goff has. I think he could do a fine job, but I would like to see a little bit more. There's a word I'm looking for, but just like, I can't think of it, but just more free flowing at the line of scrimmage.
Well, I mean, you look at this. This is this is playing into exactly what happened to his tenure in LA.
Mm-hmm.
He got the team to a Super Bowl. They won playoff games, but he couldn't win the big game. He couldn't get over the hump. And obviously, we're not in that situation. We're not. But now we're kind of talking about the crunch time, where what you're saying is to win games down the stretch, things are going to happen, and you're going to have to adapt to it. You're going to have to say, "Oh, I need to go out and burn 2 minutes of clock." The coach is going to call something in. I need to make it happen. Where I think they were like 8 3-and-outs last week or something like that, where I mean, there was just no opportunity whatsoever. Obviously, the fumble, different things happened, interceptions. But I mean, I tend to agree. As much as I like Goff and want him to succeed, there's you want to see a guy like Hooker that gets flushed out of the pocket, that can make people miss, that can be athletic. Where Goff is almost to those Peyton Manning, stage where if somebody's within 10 feet, he's going to fall down.
Yeah.
Like. And don't get me wrong, he's taking some big hits, but and I still don't. I don't think it. I don't think he's not the guy. There's still a lot of football left, even though it's coming quick. But if if I tell you that I'm not nervous about this game of all games, Denver, to say that I'm not, I would totally be lying, because
Yeah.
this is. I feel like this is like the kind of make or break point. Like the real. I said early in the season, there were some must-win games that we had to go through, and it just kind of situational. It was early, but like you're talking, like if you don't beat Denver, a team that started off abysmal and is finally putting it together, but still, injuries, different things going on. Like if you can't beat this team, yeah, you're definitely, like you said, you may back into the playoffs, but there's no hope for it. And I don't know if that's better for the team to win the division, kind of check that off, get that off the city. Maybe that's nice. Yeah, yeah. But I think the
Mm-hmm.
expectations next year are astronomical.
Yeah. Yeah, I see this game as I don't know, like it smells terrible to me. You've got the Broncos, like you said, hitting their stride, figuring it out. You got the Lions who are teetering. It's a bad mix for us. It almost feels like to me this is a game. It's almost a battle of who can be the best team that is not a contender. Like these are two teams to me that are like just shy of that list of contenders, elite teams in the league this year.
I feel like
And
this is an identity game.
yeah. And we're not in that elite category. Denver's not either, but we're two of the teams that are like the next level down. We'd be at the top of that list, right? So that's what this game is who can maybe cement themselves as the best that's not a contender. I don't feel good about this game at all. I think this is like a 27-16 Denver win. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope this team shows something. And I hope the defense can muster up some inspiration, because I know things are tough, right? They battled injuries and they can't figure out who to play at what position. But it's plus you have, Sean Payton being the mentor for Dan Campbell. It just everything smells like the Lions don't win this game to me.
See, and that's the fence I'm on. And my realist is with you, saying that we lose this game, but the side of me that I'm thinking about things, I'm thinking 21-13 Detroit, because we haven't had back-to-back losses all season. And getting into this crunch, there's like Dan Campbell had to do something this week. He had to talk to his players. He had to have done something to get this team prepared. I don't know what it is. I don't know, but this team has to play. They cannot come out. The writing was kind of on the wall. We talked about the Saints when they ripped off the 21-0. We're just going to roll them over, and then all of a sudden the wheels started falling off, and it carried over into this week. There's no way that this team can go out there and do what they just did. So I'm gonna be on the Lions. I don't want to look ahead to Dallas or anything like that, but I'm going to be on the Lions this week, and I will mention I will not be placing any bets on the Lions though.
Yeah, so we got 4 games. So it says Denver, right, and then it goes Minnesota, Dallas, Minnesota, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this really is.
And the Dallas game's a Monday night game.
Yep, and then this game, for the viewers who don't know, this is a Saturday night game, and it's on NFL Network. So you figure out a way to watch it, because if you're local and you're not in the Detroit area, you're not going to get the game if you normally get the local channel. So all my friends on the west side of Michigan, hopefully you get the NFL Network. But yes, I think that's that for the Denver game. I'm glad it's a home game, right? Is it?
Yeah, I believe. I don't even know. If we were going in Denver, I would be.
Yeah, I think I looked at it because I remember being like, yeah, if this was in Denver, no shot. But yeah, I would love if you're right. I would love if the defense held them to something like 13 points. I think that would be a huge victory. That would be even bigger than getting the win itself. Would be a good sign towards the future, in finishing out this season. I would love that. I don't see that being the case, but let's hope for that. Anything else that you are looking for in the Lions this week, specifically, other than getting a dub, please?
Just, I think I said it last week. I want to see a defensive line or offensive line hold up, but I'm not even saying just the line, but I think overall, collectively, the defense has to play better. I'm not even saying Ben Johnson has to light it up. Like I said, 21 points will get us there. Denver's been held with less. There's, they got Jerry Jeudy, but I don't think he's even had a 100-yard game this entire season. Their running backs are banged up. They're predictable. Russell Wilson's still Russ. He can still cook. He can make things happen. But again, I feel like we bode well, at least putting pressure on scrambling quarterbacks, even though Justin Fields, torched us. But I feel like we get better pressure on these types of quarterback and kind of make them have errant throws. But I think the game plan overall offensively has to be a lot cleaner. And I think I'm looking at Jamo. I think they got to get him involved and get him involved early, and everything else will open up.
That's what I was going to say. I'm looking for some creativity on the offense. I don't care what it is. To be honest with you, I don't even care if it fails. You try a double end around and you get buried in the backfield for a few yards, or you're trying something crazy to get Amon around the ball. I just want to see something different. And if a guy drops a ball, he drops a ball. Just let me see something where somebody's open because the defense wasn't looking for it. That's what I'm looking for. Man, we spent a lot of time on the Lions. Moving quickly into the Red Wings. Obviously, where we left it off, Kane was about to make his debut. He did that. They absolutely blew the lead in his debut. I think they had a 4-goal lead.
And
you texted me about that one. Yeah. So we dropped to the Sharks. And then we lost our next 2. And I remember maybe our second or third episode this year where I was like, if we get Patrick Kane and it goes to shit, I'm going to be so mad. Right. And that's where I was at. I was like,
he even had a goal. So it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the game he scored it, I think we lost 5-1. He had the only goal. But I was like, oh, man, here we go. We signed Patrick Kane, put him in the lineup, and we cannot figure out how to win a game all of a sudden. And it's perfect. Lifelong Blackhawks sabotaging the Red Wings. I'll sign with them middle of the year and derail their season. Yeah. But now picked up a win a couple days ago against the Blues. So back on the winning column.
I think are they playing right now, or I think they're playing right now.
Yeah, losing 1-0 to the Hurricanes right now in the middle of the second.
So obviously we haven't talked since the Larkin situation and everything that's going on, the suspension.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch that game live?
I didn't know. Oh, I did not see that part of the game live. I was watching.
Your hockey take. Obviously a lot behind that because there's a lot of chatter between teams and stuff going on, and if you're looking at that situation, obviously not as your team, you're just watching it unfold. What are you thinking of that situation, the suspension, Larkin going down like that, that whole scenario?
Yeah, I don't think what happened to Larkin was intentional. I think his head just got caught in the wrong place. I don't. It's always tough, right? Because you can say like somebody didn't mean to hurt somebody, but that doesn't mean that he was not making a dirty play.
Yeah.
So I think I I had this issue when we signed David Prom because I hated him. I hated
think
this
you
guy.
mentioned.
Yeah, I hated him. Now we signed him, and I hated him for stuff like this that he did. And so I understand, like now that he's like doing it as on our team and he's sticking up for his captain, and I understand why he did it, but like the suspension was warranted. I honestly thought it could have been longer.
I think a lot of GMs weighed in on that too.
Yeah, like to me, like that is dangerous. So I'm not gonna like back up and condone what he did. But at the same time, when your captain goes down, you're kind of like, yeah, all right, yeah, you probably don't deserve a cross check to the head, but you had something coming,
And then, not to get too far away from the Wings, did you see? Well, I think it was last night. Was that the shootout between? Who was it? The goalkeeper that came out and
Oh yeah, Kachuk of the Senators was pissed.
Kachuk, yep.
Yeah, I did see that, and I don't know, like that. I saw the fan bases going back and forth on that too, because like on one hand, the goalie went like he didn't throw his stick at the puck, right? He threw it at his skates, but also good move, good play by the goalie, right? Kachuk dropped his head for a half a second, and that's when he dove and
picked him up. Yeah, so
it's good hockey play. Yeah, so it was funny though, the whole back and forth. You see like the goalie mask, and he's like.
Yeah, chopping at each other. So, but speaking of goalies, we talked about this and obviously previous offseason and stuff like that. It seems like they're rotating goalies. There's no, I know in hockey, it's not one of those where you just usually play a guy until they're, completely worn into the ground. You kind of keep them fresh. But I feel like we're rotating through 2-3 guys here. What's your take? Because we had mentioned, like I said, in years past, we never really had that goalie. Now we've got some goalies who have some success. Do you like how they're being handled? Are there certain goalies or certain players maybe you just don't want to see in the box, or you see that they're on the ice that night and you're like, oh man, here we go.
Look, I mean, goalie was coming into the season was always going to be our weakness.
Yes.
So there's really no surprise there. And we kind of got what we got. We got James Reiber, Alex Lyon, who are like serviceable, have always been serviceable goaltenders in the league. But, you kind of know you're not going to get anything better than what we're getting. And we still got Sebastian Kosa, however you say his name, waiting in the wings. I think he plays in Grand Rapids right now, or that's where he was at the beginning of the season. I don't know if he's still there. I would assume so. We're just waiting for him. We're waiting for him to take that step. He's going to be our young, Vasilevsky or Shesterkin, and pray to God, please, that's what he is. But yeah, no, I mean, there's some other guys that like on our team that I feel like I don't love when they're on the ice. Like Jeff Petrie is so old on our defense that I get nervous when he's on the ice, but also at the same time, I understand like if we didn't have him, it would be somebody worse, right? And Yzerman had to do something to fill the roster, and it's just we're still like the rebuild isn't finished, right? And so I think this is more of like I don't know. This is like a filler year. Like we had last year where we had a ton of let's try the young talent, right?
Yeah.
Let's give them all a shot because we ran into injuries and the whole Jakub Vrana situation, which I don't know if you heard about that. He just got released by the Blues after we beat them.
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, so he's going through that whole career revival again.
Thing.
Anyways, that's another topic. But this year is kind of like Yzerman's kind of like, okay, let's see how far we can get. Let's get some of that exposure, playoff exposure, hopefully, or tight games down the stretch exposure. And then I think next year's the year. Next year is when Kosa comes up as goaltender, hopefully, and we start seeing like Edvinsson and Soderblom and all those younger guys that we kind of were teased with last year, and they got replaced with free agent signings this year, like DeBrincat and Kopp and Kane and all that. So we'll see next year. I think this year is more of just like how far can we go? I think it would if we made a deep run, it would be awesome. I don't think it's expected. It's just let's just get into the playoffs and see if we can compete in round one. And I think that's so far so good. I mean, we're right there in a playoff spot right now. It's just can we hold it together?
Do you feel like this is, we had this conversation last year, same trajectory as the Lions, kind of
Yeah, yeah,
ahead of pace, get into the playoffs and see what we can do, but the expectation is not necessarily to win it all.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's both teams putting pressure on their division where it wasn't expected. Obviously, in the Lions' case, winning the division at the moment.
Yeah.
Red Wings have been teetering back between 3 and 4, but Boston's such a juggernaut that that they're going to be number one. And I think Florida's been floating in the 2 spot. But yeah, it's very interesting. Like you said, almost same trajectories. It seems like now almost I would say that the Lions are closer. I think last year we kind of
I
agreed that the
know.
Red Wings
That's
were
what
probably
we
closer.
and I even think we had the Pistons like a trajectory for boy were we wrong, but whatever. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm not like Pistons at this point. I would give them still 8 more years. Like, we're probably gonna do another rebuild before
we'll have
they're
a new
good.
stadium by then. Another
Yeah.
one. So but yeah, so yeah, anyways, yeah, no, I'm not even gonna get into the Pistons. Yeah, we're running a little long here. We talked with a lot of Lions, but any roundtable topics that you wanna touch on quick?
Yeah. I mean, we'll just like you say, we're not gonna talk about the Pistons. We'll just let everyone know they still aren't winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever that streak's at, it's still going. Round table wise, I don't think I have anything pressing. I mean, I could still go on for another hour about Florida State and that whole tragedy, but no, I'm not gonna waste any more time on the airwaves about that. I did
Well,
see. Did you see that they were doing a probe into the? I think there was like some senator that wanted a probe into the CFP.
oh yeah. It's funny you bring that up because I was going to talk about that because Kurt Herbstreit went on a rant
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of caught people off guard. Pretty much just saying that for all the people saying that Florida State is what it is. There's Michigan, there's Georgia, there's Alabama, there's all these teams that are better than them. So pretty much quit whining. And Herbstreit's not usually one of those guys, but he pretty much came out of his shell. Of course, this was through Twitter, but let people know, like, pretty much stop whining. It is what it is. But and you have to check. People have to check out our YouTube because we got a clip of Zach for if you missed last week's show. His little rant was
Bro.
well warranted.
This is what I don't get. Right? See, you're about to rile me up again. Herbstreit is talking about like all of these teams are better than Florida State, right? How does he know that? They are 13
He said,
and
"Hey,
0.
he watches the film." He says he watches the film.
Oh my God. Yeah, this guy, he watches. Yeah, he watch a film of LSU or I mean,
Said he watched 18 to 20 games or something like that a week.
Yeah, did he watch Florida State play Michigan? I don't think he did. None of us did. None of us get to because they ruined it. And that's what all these people are saying, right? And this Paul Feinbaum guy, right? I want.
Oh, he drives me nuts.
Yeah, bro. He's like, I don't get like this very often. He is the only guy in the world that I would like to just like rip his head off of his neck. This guy, like, all right, not even get into this guy, right? Because his SEC bias is what I think makes me so mad. But that's what all these guys are talking about when they say that they've turned this into figure skating. Because that's exactly what they are doing. When Kirk Herbstreit says something like that, all these teams are better than them. That's so easy to say because you didn't put Florida State up against those teams. It's such a cowardly cop out. All these teams are better. Yeah, we'll never know. You dumbass. Like, I'm going to sit here and say that they are better, and none of us are going to win this argument because you never put them on the field together when you had the chance. Like, man. I can't deal. I don't understand the logic that these people have when they say they are better. Or they just weren't the better team. Like, I don't know, man.
We'll be talking this time next year, bitching about the new committee or the new rollout, but I don't know necessarily that you can with adding extra teams. But hey, anyways, moving on and ending the show, we've had our fun. Talked a lot about Lions, obviously, rightfully so. That's what we really are talking about as of late. 9-4. There is some concern to end the season 9-8. I think the city.
Yeah, this is it's a pivotal spot. We're in a pivotal spot right now.
The city will once again go up in flames if that does happen. But big win this week. That's what I'm saying. it's just got to happen. I mean, I there's nothing to elaborate on. It's got to happen. So Zach, any words of wisdom before we get out of here?
No, I don't care if it's like the Vikings and we win 3-0. Let's find a way, like you said, just find a way to get the win. It's a big win. It needs to be in the W column. I don't care how it's done. 3-0, 9-0, 75-74. I don't care. Win the game.
Speak of 3-0. I got the Raiders Chargers game on here. I didn't realize that Minnesota won 3-0 last week. So
yeah, did the Raiders score yet?
No. Oh yeah, that's the bad thing. I was just gonna say is I took the Chargers at 110 and the Raiders are up 14-0. So great.
Okay, so they did figure it out. All right.
But anyways, yes, we'll end it there. Obviously, hopefully next week we will talk about the W. We haven't had 2 losses back to back this season. Not looking forward now. Talk about the front end of the season was a little more risky, even though we rolled through it. We thought that back half of the season we were going to walk through. But yeah, here we are. We'll see what happens. But thank you guys for joining us. We are MCR, the realist. As you heard, obviously we talk about the realism. We don't get too excited. But appreciate you guys joining in. We'll be back next week. And then we'll probably have a week off for the holidays. So on behalf of myself and Zach, we will see you next week. Thank you guys.